Let's bring in Nebraska Republican Senator Ben Sasse, member of the Intelligence, Judiciary, Budget, and Finance Committees. Senator, thanks for being here.
Thanks for the invite.
Is there a committee you're not on, or? I mean, that's a lot of committees. All right, I want to put the intelligence hat on first and talk about these MiG-29 planes, these jets from Poland. Take a listen to this back and forth.
If, for instance, the Polish government, a NATO member, wants to send fighter jets, does that get a green light from the U.S., or are you afraid that that will escalate tension?
No, that gets a green light.
We don't believe additional aircraft is the most effective answer to meeting those needs in the conflict. Now, look, sovereign nations can decide for themselves.
We're delivering lethal aid. Do we honestly think Putin's going to draw a distinction between the javelins and stingers that are coming across, killing Russians very effectively from jets protecting the skies above?
Has the administration screwed this up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yes, no, maybe to everything. What are they for? Like, you listen to Secretary Blinken, and there's a process to have a meeting, and maybe we'll greenlight it, but no, we won't. That's not the right priority. There's a frickin' war going on, and it's really tough to get the administration to be for anything. This is not leading from behind. This is just not leading, period.
So what about the intelligence assessment, according to Kirby today, that by providing the jets, it somehow escalates and Putin could retaliate in a bigger way? To Congressman Quigley's point, we are funneling in thousands and thousands of javelins and stingers and other equipment.
Well, it's important to recognize that Putin has a gigantic nuclear arsenal, and he will threaten to use it. And the possibility that he could use a tactical small nuke on the battlefield is real. We should acknowledge that that's reality. But what the administration is doing is constantly self-deterring by having meeting after meeting after meeting to say, well, if we did this, maybe this lawyerly hair-splitting thing is the thing that would really make Putin mad. And then he'd do something like what, bomb a maternity hospital and kill babies and moms in the process of delivery? Putin is evil, and the administration is constantly wrong about who he is and what motivates him, and they act like lots of lawyerly distinctions are what he's paying attention to. That's not the right line.
But you appreciate the side that is worried about World War III. You appreciate the side, after hearing what you hear on the Intel Committee, about Putin doubling down, the CIA director, about he's not leaving anytime soon, and what does that mean for us?
It is clearly the case that Putin wants to be perceived as a madman. The one thing we know about him is he's evil. You could think he's crazy, you could think he's a genius, but he wants to be thought of as a nut job who will use nukes at the drop of a hat. The reality is, yes, when you have an arsenal that big, we have to be aware of the potential for escalation. But the distinction that the congressman was drawing there is exactly right. When we're supplying stingers, when we're supplying javelins, we're supplying a lot of munitions already. MiGs are not the thing that'll cross the line.
What about the energy back and forth here that we're hearing from the administration about oil companies have the leases they need? The Keystone XL pipeline wouldn't do anything now. What you're hearing from the administration on this front as they go towards Venezuela and Iran and Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, we've been arguing in the city for many, many years about whether or not the U.S. should get to energy independence, and we are blessed with unbelievable natural resources, and we should have gotten to energy independence. And this administration consistently does things that make us more dependent on bad guys around the world. And so now you see them running to Iran, you see them running to Maduro. When you want to cut off Putin, as we should, the right solution isn't to line somebody else's pockets along the way. It's to have a long-term energy plan. We're going to need cleaner energy over time. That's obviously true, but we need an energy transition, and we should be energy independent now. And this administration came to office 14 months ago, and one of the first things they did is kill the Keystone pipeline. This was a bad idea then. We said it was a bad idea then, and now they seem like they think it's a surprise that they've got an energy problem on their hands.
Two more quick things. We just did this live report from Capitol Hill about the spending woes and what's happening. I mean, is this all going to come together up there this time around?
It hasn't come together for years and years and years. I'm 50 years old, and in the last 46 years of my life, I think only 4 times has Congress spent more than 30% of its money on the appropriated process. I saw your clip from Speaker Pelosi saying, we need to grow up and become adults about this. She's the one who just led a process that released a 3,000-page bill in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 days before the government shuts down, after the last CR 3 weeks ago. There's never actually a long-term plan to get our fiscal house in order. here. The leadership of the Democratic Party in neither the House nor the Senate wants to get serious.
One last thing, put up this picture. You met with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson Friday. Your thoughts initially and how that process is going to work?
Glad to meet her in person. Glad we're taking her nomination seriously. She's a serious human being. I have lots of questions about her judicial philosophy. I didn't vote for her for the court on which she now sits, but we have a process to publicly vet her. And I hope she'll be very forthcoming about what a judge's job is, because a judge's job is not to be a super legislator. And I'd like to hear her clearly articulate why we have three branches and why Article 3 has a black robe that limits the discretion and powers of a judge.
But going in, it looks like a non-controversial nomination.
I mean, replacing the guy that she's going to replace, I think, doesn't change the court very much. But I think that Americans, without regard to political parties, should want judges who know what a judge's job is and have limits on that responsibility. So I would like us to have a revival of American civics, so judges don't think of themselves as super legislators. They don't get lifetime tenure and then get to make law.
Senator Sasse, we appreciate your time.
Thanks for the invite.
In person.